From the Middle is proud to be a founding member of Odd Pods Media.
Greetings, everyone. And I do mean everyone, because we are an inclusive podcast. Welcome to episode number 194 of From the Middle, our last episode. It's a joke. It's not really our last episode if we have anything to say about it.
Well, I mean, that's up to you guys.
That's up to you guys. Please don't cancel us. Probably. Hey, in this episode, we talk about some traffic frustrations, moving furniture to surprise our wives, doing your own vehicle maintenance, kids driving. We get into some parenting tips and how nearing 40 makes you sort of not care, so much so that we start weighing in on woke culture and probably go way too far. Enjoy!
Oh, for the love.
Sorry, just clearing my Mountain Dew hole.
I got my phone hole cleaned today.
That's where you keep it? You're so cerebral and you're so developed and evolved.
From the Middle after dark over here.
Question for you. We're coming up on 200 episodes.
Right.
Short time ago, we skipped our first week ever, if you don't count having a death in the family. Then some weeks later, I'm gone. This week's Dillon's gone.
Yeah.
Do you think the listeners are thinking, here we go.
Probably.
This is the beginning
That's probably what they're thinking.
They're falling apart. They're getting lackadaisical. They're not committing.
That's what it is with these kinds of things, man, is people just, it's the commitment is what goes.
Yeah.
Right? That's the thing. I'm going to move something.
Oh, that's cool. I can see you now.
There it is. There it
That's
is.
just beautiful.
There it is. I tell you what, I think I probably talked about this before, but back in the younger, more irresponsible days of trying to start bands and things like that, that was always the problem, is trying to find people who are not only capable, but are also on the same level of commitment as you are. And that's the thing that's impossible to find.
No matter how many questions you ask at the top.
Yeah.
Hey guys, for real.
Exactly.
Somebody's always, it seems, at a different commitment level than you are.
Yeah. This means that like we have to be able to get together, and that sometimes it's going to mean you're going to have to say no to other things sometimes.
Yeah.
And some people aren't willing, which is fine, but it's so hard to find people who are willing to commit.
Yeah. And speaking of that, Dillon quit the podcast. No, he just couldn't join us this week, and I was traveling last week. Whenever we do go out, how do you think we'll go out? Will we do like a big celebration and bring past guests, or bring on some middlers to join us live, or will we just kind of like fizzle out? Episode here,
fizzle out, and
episode
6 months later, tell people, yeah, by the way, we stopped. I like the idea of loud quitting, which would be something a la Office Space, where we just start getting crass and political until we get canceled. We make a game about how long can we last if we say what we're really thinking.
Loud quitting. I like that. What movie is that where he's like, F you, you're cool, F you, I'm out of here. He's working at a burger joint or a fast food restaurant. It's like one of those stoner movies like Half Baked or something like that.
Okay.
I think it is Half Baked, actually. So yeah, Dillon can't be here this week. Let's say bad things about him while he's gone. You guys had some jokes at my expense last week. I think we turned Los Mesas. No, you know it'd be great and hilarious. Who's going to do loud breathing in the mic? Let's say really nice things about him while he's gone. I think that's an episode of The Office where Michael's like, he's not here, so I'm going to say nice things. And they're like, why would you do that? Why wouldn't you just say them to his face? In all seriousness, I feel like I've seen Dillon grow in the couple years we've been doing this, in his communication skills
Yeah.
and his ability to facilitate conversation.
Oh, yeah.
And that's not just this podcast. I think his management position at his job. But I hate to admit, I think he's passed me in the funny. And a lot of the listeners are going, "Oh, he passed you in the funny a long time ago." But I'm just coming to that realization.
Where is it? Let me find it.
His wit.
Can I just say, Dillon has one of my favorite wits in podcast.
Oh, he's great, isn't he?
He's very funny.
So sharp.
I sometimes listen to episodes and I'm like, man, he carried that episode.
Yeah,
He does a great job. So
he does.
we love you, Dillon. We miss you. There's also this weird dynamic that happens where when one of us is gone, the makeup that is the other two. And so I noticed, and maybe you didn't feel this when I walked in, but it was almost like we don't want to catch up with each other before we record.
Yeah,
Because we'd rather do it during the podcast. Like,
Right.
I didn't even really ask you how you're doing. You asked me how I was doing, and I didn't even ask you how you're doing
No,
because
that's
I'm like,
fine,
I'd
man.
rather hear it.
That's mine. And I think probably like the topic changes a little bit. Dillon and I talked a little bit about sports.
More sports ball, yeah.
Than we normally
Yeah.
would. You and I were talking about pocket knives. Just
Pocket
before.
knives. Yeah.
Just before
I've
we
been
started.
getting ads for this Leatherman Signal, and it looks like it's a smaller profile than some of Leatherman's other models. But what's cool about this is you can mix and match the exterior shell color as well as do you want chrome or platinum blades and whatnot and tools or black. And then they can engrave like a silhouette of a duck if you're a duck hunter or a buck or a dog or your name or whatever flag. And so I've been looking at the Leatherman Signal. It looks pretty cool. Do you have you don't have a Leatherman in your everyday carry or like a multi
I don't. I keep one
multi-tool?
in the car. I used to everyday carry a Skeletal. Long time ago, I carried a Wave.
Yeah.
We were talking about that one.
Yep.
But Skeletal is probably my favorite of the Leatherman tools. It's a little bit lighter. It's and it has just kind of like bare minimum for a Leatherman.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I'm more of just a straight up knife guy and don't fuss with the rest of it.
Even the Victorinox that
Victorinox? Swiss Army knives?
Swiss Army knives. Those are too much for you?
I carry a little one.
Oh, okay.
A little one as my secondary blade. It also has little scissors, which
Yeah.
I find very helpful.
When fishing.
They're actually not strong enough for
fishing line.
applications. No, they're good for like if I've cut my fingernails before with the little scissors. Taking tags off of things.
Yeah.
Especially if they're down close to something and you don't want to accidentally rip it out with your knife.
Yeah.
Those kinds of things. Strings off of shirts. And also it's good just to have it. And the little Victorinoxes are so small, like they disappear in your pocket. You don't know that you're carrying. You put it in the little fifth pocket in my jeans, the little watch pocket thing.
Yeah, yeah. That does get used, huh?
That and my flashlight go into that little pocket. And then I have the big boy on my belt.
Yeah, you do. Dillon and I's grandfather, every Christmas, somebody's looking for a knife to open. Yeah, that's like a buckskin and knife.
It is.
It's not a knife.
Buck 110.
Inevitably, somebody gets a package that the tape is too strong and or it has those like twisty things on the clamshell boxes for toys that people don't want to mess with and try to rip open with their hands or teeth.
Right.
So inevitably, my grandpa gets out his Victorinox little tiny red one, and I'm amazed he's kept it all these years.
Yeah.
So, how are you, buddy? Well, now I can ask you, since we're live and the listeners will benefit from your responses. How are you, friend?
Fine.
It's good seeing you. Okay, cool.
Actually, today, as of recording this, my wife does not know, but she'll find out, hopefully. She's been talking for weeks, months, maybe even, of wanting to rearrange the furniture in our bedroom. And so today, I took it upon myself to do that by myself. And
everything she had been wanting done?
as far as the rearranging,
Like the rearranging,
which isn't a whole lot, but when you're like lifting portions of a king size bed and trying to shift it over to another side of the room, and then doing the same with a full size dresser and things, there's
a lot of grunting going on.
It gets to you when you're starting to push 40. Like, goodness gracious. So moving furniture is a young man's game. On the drive here, I was thinking, man, this seat, like, I got to adjust, my back hurts a little bit. And like, nope, it's not the seat. It's not the seat. That's not the problem.
It's just my back.
Yeah. Yeah. So
I noticed that when traveling, especially if I get the middle seat, dude, I'm not a small man. I recognize this, but I also, for my proportions, have I think a very barrely chest. I'm big in the shoulders and chest. And if somebody on the window and aisle take the armrests, that leaves a barely chested guy to essentially, like,
yeah,
you have to hold your own elbows
right
in, or like
you gotta get narrower somehow.
Put them down, and then to do that for a long flight is, by the end, it's excruciating, and you're just seated.
Yeah, you're sitting.
You're just sitting down.
Sitting becomes tiring.
You even get a little bit of recline. Like, you know, this is hacky, right? Talking about airplane jokes, but like you get a 2 or 3 inch recline if you want, and it doesn't matter if you don't have the shoulder and you know, I'm like, I'm tired. I'm tired from holding my arms in this position. Yeah. So you rearranged. Did she see it? Was she surprised?
No, she hasn't seen it yet.
I did it.
Yeah, I did it today. She has not been up there yet today. She's off taking my daughter to dance right now, and so she'll find out.
You're excited for her to see it.
I'm excited for her to see it. Yeah.
Yeah. I did the thing that we've been talking about, babe.
Yeah.
I had one of those. Did not go well. Pretty sure we've already talked about it. Doesn't matter. Going to tell
Let's
it anyway. We have a front room in our house that sort of doesn't get used very much. The piano is in there. There have been some combinations of rocking chairs, tub chairs, couches, coffee tables in there, but it's essentially just a sitting reading room. My guitar is hanging on the wall in there. The piano's in there, whatever. We were switching colors. We had gone from like yellow and light gray, and we were going to switch to gray and navy. And my wife did an accent wall of this wallpaper. It's not the old school wallpaper where you use paste and all that nonsense. It's essentially goes right from the roll right onto the wall.
Right.
But she didn't know what kind of seating she wanted in there. This goes back to our dumpster diving story. While she was gone on a work trip, the neighbors directly to the side of us were throwing away an IKEA-looking, very minimalist, not curves. It was just very squarish, minimalist-looking navy blue couch, and they had put it at the end of their driveway with a big free sign on it. It was so IKEA-esque and lightweight that I picked the entire thing up by myself and carried it through the front door into the piano room to place it in there to see if I liked it, and it matched the window treatments that she had in there perfectly.
Okay.
So I was like all excited.
Yeah.
The same week, the neighbors across the street and one down who listen to this podcast were throwing away a coffee table that not only matched the couch, but matched the other furniture and end tables we had in that room to the like shade of gray and white. It was perfect. So I went and grabbed that too. So I'm like, now all I need is a rug. Yeah. I need a rug. And just see if somebody else is getting one.
Yeah, yeah.
So I do all this, right? I'm so excited. I'm like, not only did I find something that works, it happens to match.
Right.
So just like you, I'm all excited, ready for her to see it. She comes back from her trip. The kids are already asleep. She walks past the room 2 or 3 times. I can't help but make like, there's a look on my face of like, she's like, What's that look on your face? What's going on? I'm like, nothing. What are you talking about? What's the look? This is just my face. She keeps walking by. I think she must have walked by 2 or 3 more times. Then she finally sees it. And I'm not exaggerating the tone when I tell you she went, what is that? And I went, what is what?
Yeah.
What is that? Where did you get that? I couldn't tell if that was like I need to know how much money you spent on this because she does the finances. It was either that or she knows me well enough to know that I dumpster dove it.
Right.
She goes, did you dumpster dive that? And I didn't want to say yes because it matched so perfectly that it could have been believable that I picked it up. It didn't go well. We got into a bit of an argument, and that evening went down way less great than what yours is going to go down.
Oh,
Amy will be
goodness.
very excited because she's pre-approved the moves, the furniture moves. So yeah, the rearrangement. It didn't go well.
I'm sorry, dude. You thought you were doing a thing.
Thought I was doing a thing.
There was no recognition of like. I can
Nah.
see that you were trying to do a thing.
Nah, in fact, she still talks about how much she hates it on the reg. And so we're going to throw it out and put a free sign on it.
Okay.
But it's fine. It's really fine. It's a really fine. It's not the most comfortable couch you've ever sat on.
Right.
But it's like a room that doesn't get sat in much. Perfectly matching thing. Anyway, I'm good at designing rooms. Let me just say. I'm also good at something else. We have talked on this podcast before about things that we feel like we should be able to do as guys. Like there's these annoying expectations of guys that you should be able to drive a stick shift, back up a trailer into a space, change the oil on your own car, things like that. I learned how to do one of those.
Yeah.
So not only do I design a mean room, I can change the oil on my motorcycle.
There you go. You earned your beard.
I earned my beard. And Dillon said that when I was gone, you guys weren't going to have to talk about motorcycles and shoes. And so here I am now. But I was very excited. So Greg has the oil pan, my buddy who's been on the podcast before, buddy who's into bikes. He said, I'd be happy to show you. It's so easy. It's like 2 bolts and
Oil falls out.
Put more in. Don't spill it. You're good for 5,000 more miles.
Is there a filter on that thing?
There's a filter. Didn't have the proper thing. Had to go to Advanced Auto Parts and buy the proper thing. The filter has little flutes.
Yep.
And I needed a 14 flute thing for my socket wrench to get that thing off of there.
Yeah.
Got one. So
Get
now
a strap wrench, and that's a universal oil filter wrench right there.
So I have a strap wrench that I use for some plumbing in the basement to remove the whole house filter.
Okay.
But because of where the frame of the bike is, it's really hard to
Get
all up in there.
You need to go perpendicular.
You need to go at it
Yeah.
from the bottom. Anyway,
Yeah, you do.
I learned how to do that, and I was very excited. And there is a sense of like, I can perform basic routine maintenance on my own
There you go.
vehicle from my garage while listening to music. That's a good feeling. It is. It's a good feeling.
It is. That is a good feeling. I'm happy for you.
Thanks, man. Can't do it on my car still, but I can do it on my bike.
It's exact same thing.
Is it?
Oh yeah.
Harder to get to the drain plug?
Well, I mean, you got to get under your car somehow.
Yeah.
So whether you put it up on jack stands, you put the front on jack stands and then crawl underneath, or if it's a truck, you just put it in park and crawl underneath.
Yeah. Same thing, huh?
Or get a pair of ramps. I have a pair of ramps at home that you can drive up.
Yeah.
And then, it's the same thing. You undo the drain plug, let the oil come out. While the oil's coming out, when the oil's done coming out, you unscrew the filter. And then drain the filter out. And then put the oil plug back in, put a new filter on, and then fill her up.
Man, this is fun.
Yeah.
It's fun times.
So now you can say that even if you don't do it, you can say that I can change the oil in my car. I just don't.
I can do a lot of things.
Yeah, I could do a lot of stuff.
I just don't.
I just don't. So cool. I can't even figure out a bicycle, how bicycles work.
What?
So there, you've got one up on me in the 2-wheel game. It's been warmer weather here lately, and my wife wants to take the kids out bike riding, and the bike that she uses primarily is needed some help. Tires won't take air, so definitely needed an inner tube. She thought the rubber on the tires was cracking or whatever. I don't know anything about bicycles, and so she wanted me to take it to this place for, she says, a tune-up, and for me, who was in the service manager world for the better part of a decade, like cringe when I hear the term tune-up. Because people come in, they ask for a tune-up, and you're like, okay, this isn't the 60s. Like a tune, like that terminology doesn't exist. So when you say tune-up, I don't know what you mean. And I know that you're only saying tune-up because you don't know what to ask for. And so then I have to start asking like qualifying questions about what they think a tune-up is. And then we put the thing together. And so I'm like, I'm not about to just walk in there like an idiot and just say, hey, can I get a tune-up? And then so she pulls up their website of this place that I'm going to take this bike to. And right there, here's our tune-ups. Like, okay. All right. So you got me there.
There's a little asterisk. And here's exactly what we mean by tune-up.
Exactly. They have 3 different types of tune-ups.
Yeah.
So at the very least, I had to know
Deluxe.
which tune-up to do. And so I knew that it needed... we were going to do the basic tune-up and 2 new inner tubes, 2 new tires. Those were the things. No problem. I can take that from here. And so while I'm trying to load it up in the back of the van, the front tire is locked up and won't roll. And so I'm like, okay, so I'll just make sure that they know, that I'm sure they'll figure it out, that the front brakes are locked and won't release the tire. I don't know how to get that working again. So why don't you guys do that for me? So load it up, go to the place. I have to park like halfway down the parking lot. And so now I'm very awkwardly kind of rolling on the back tire, kind of carrying this bike, struggling through women holding doors open for me. And all that stuff. I make my way in, and then like the counter to this place is like in the back of the store. So now I've got to like drag this bike through the store. As I'm approaching, the lady says, "Hey, what can we do for you?" And I'm just like, "Yeah, I have a bike that needs help." And I put it down. I'm like,
you call it a tune-up.
Yeah. So I think we want like the basic tune-up, and then we definitely want 2 new inner tubes. And my wife thinks that it needs tires. If you'll take a look at those. And then so I put it down, and she goes, well, let me take care of those brakes first. She picks up the front of the bike, turns the bar handles around 360 degrees, puts it back down. Front brakes are fixed.
That's your problem right there.
Oh boy.
These handlebars look weird too.
I was trying. Well, the handlebars weren't backwards. It had gone 360 around.
Oh,
so if you're just looking, look fine.
The cable's
unless
just twisted.
Somebody's coming toward you and you know things about bikes and you see that the cables are twisted around the forks or whatever.
Yeah.
And so I tried so hard to not look or sound like an ass. And then that happened. Which was fine. Whatever.
Bikes are complicated. In fact, there's a common saying amongst artists, like when talking about the importance of gathering reference material, not copying other art or tracing it, just looking at something to go, what does a violin look like? Because I'm doing a piece that features a violin.
Right.
So reference is a very acceptable thing. And the reason why is because it's like you ask any artist, no matter how good they are, draw a bicycle just out of their head. Mm-hmm. And we all think we know exactly what a bicycle looks like.
Yeah.
And then you go to draw one, even a simple line drawing of one, and you're like, wait a minute, how does that thing connect to that thing?
Right.
So that's like a funny, like hands, feet, and bicycles.
I could see that. That makes
being
sense.
Very hard to draw.
Yeah. I'm going to try that. Tonight.
It. Yeah. Unless you draw bicycles for a living, it's hard to draw bicycles.
Yeah.
Very simple stick figure one. Speaking of idiots in cars, I don't know why I'm still amazed that certain people exist. And I'm being nice in case you couldn't tell.
Wow.
I'm in the car. I'm coming up to a T intersection. I'm behind one car. We have to stop at the T intersection, but the The top part of the T, they do not have to stop, and they're going 50 miles an hour.
Okay.
Following?
Yep.
2 cars. I see 2 cars coming around the bend on the left. They're very obviously coming 50 miles an hour.
Right.
The car in front of me turns right in front of them, so much so that both have to slam on their brakes and they're screeching.
Yeah.
The first of the 2 cars, their hands are in the air. They're beeping like, lady, what the heck are you doing?
Right.
Now there's a line of 4 of us. The lady who just pulled out in front of the 2, and then me. And we're in a single file lane that in about 2 or 3 miles will become 2 lanes.
Okay.
For that entire time, that lady that pulled out in front of the 2 cars was no less than 10 to 15 miles an hour under the speed limit.
Oy.
So I'm like, okay, this could be a senior citizen who's trying to hold on to their independence. Remember, we talked about like assume the best, or assume the situation that gives you the most amount of grace or empathy for that person. So I'm like, okay, maybe it's just like somebody who's barely hanging on and wants to maintain their freedom. Maybe it's a brand new driver, teenager who feels really bad about that idiotic turn they just made. Not sure why they can't read basic speed limit signs, but let's just ignore that for the time.
Yeah.
As it splits into 2 lanes, those 2 cars couldn't get around her any faster because they're still ticked off from what happened a few miles back.
Right.
I pull alongside, her trunk's open.
Okay.
And then her and I come to a light where now we're parallel, and I look over at her, and she's just a very seemingly normal looking person, just like eating a snack, listening to music,
Wow.
totally oblivious to the world around her.
Right.
Clearly.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, she could have hurt somebody. How are these people out there, man?
People getting in each other's way. And people not thinking about how they're affecting other people. Like those are, I think we boiled it down. Our pet peeves, were
spatial awareness,
boiled down to those 2 things.
Just total oblivious to the fact that they affect other people in any way, shape, or form. Like she was totally fine. She wasn't on her phone, and I wanted to roll down my window and be like, first of all, your trunk's open. Second of all, any comments about what happened 4 miles back at the T interstate? No, nothing. Cool. What are you listening to? Like from the middle.
Probably Willie Nelson.
That just grinds my gears like no other thing.
I hear you. If you ask any one of my kids when we're out in public, anywhere, grocery store, doesn't matter where we are. If you ask any one of my kids what's the number 1 rule, what they will tell you is don't be in anyone's way.
I love it. You're parenting right, man. You are parenting right.
Don't be in anyone's way. And then, so now, like when I'm parenting them in these situations, I don't have to look like the bad, evil parent, which I would only look that way to people who don't have kids. People who have kids would get it. But I don't have to like rebuke them for, hey, you're in their way. Making it sound to the public that like I think my kids are just like
in everybody's
and in everyone's way, and they're unimportant.
They're a problem. They're generally a problem.
Yeah, I just have to say, guys, rule number 1.
I love it.
And that's all I have to say. That rule number 1 is don't get in anyone's way. Rule number 2 is don't be grabby. Don't grab things.
Yeah.
So, and rule number 3 is no daddy can't ice. Sometimes I let rule number 3 slide.
Yeah, that's.
But if it comes
like,
up and it's getting on my
bathroom.
nerves, like I'll tell them rule number 3. Stop asking for the same thing 15 times.
Somebody on social media was lamenting the same thing, and I think it pertained to it was either sidewalks or airport terminals, and it was the same thing where like one group of people, whether that's a family or a team or a business group, whatever, they take up that entire width and also happen to be going slowly because they're just casually conversing with one another.
Yep.
And other people have like tight connections, like Dillon.
Yeah.
And he's trying to run through through the airport.
Yeah. Like middle schoolers in a hallway.
I am convinced that they know and that they're just choosing to be jerks.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know that I want to believe that, but it maybe justifies my anger if I believe that.
There was one situation where I'm pretty sure that was the case, and it was a group of like young teenagers.
Yeah, so
it was at a park. It was on 4th of July. It was trying to see fireworks. It had rained earlier in the day or the day before. Point is, we were walking down like a gravel path, and there's just like quagmires of water on either side. So you couldn't walk off of the path. It was not possible. And like just in this path, a big clump of like 6 teenagers taking up the entire path.
Whole width,
and there's a whole lot of people trying to walk down that path. And like, I don't remember what I said, something snarky under my breath as I'm like trying to weave through these people. And they laughed and then stayed there.
Yeah, that's how you know.
So they knew.
Yeah.
And they didn't care.
Yeah. And you had to deal with water quagmires.
Yeah. No, I mean, I walked through them.
Oh, nice.
As other people
Do you remember what
were
you
also
said?
doing. I don't. It's something like people have to walk through here or something like that.
Yeah.
It was something like
Which, are you the bad guy for saying that?
I don't think so. Not at all.
Even something like, no, you guys, it's fine. We'll just, I like, that's a little sarcasm, but that's kind of what I want to say. Like, no, it's fine. You go ahead. You take up the whole, that's fine. Don't mind us.
Yeah. I would say my ideal self would probably have handled it nicer than I did. I don't remember what I said, but I tend to get kind of smart alecky. I was with my family and we were heading into a Mexican restaurant. This is just this past week. And one of the things that irks me is when people pull up in front of a store and just park wherever they want, right in front of the store.
Oh, because they're waiting on someone?
They're just going to go in and come back out.
Oh.
Or even if they're waiting on somebody.
Oh, park.
Like they're parked in the fire lane. They got out. They went into like the T-Mobile store or whatever, probably because it was going to be just a 2-minute trip. I don't need a parking spot for that. And then come back out. Like there's people who actually think that that's fine and okay and acceptable. I don't even like the people who are waiting on someone to be sitting in that fire lane. That's super annoying.
Yeah.
And so as we're like walking into this restaurant that's next door to the place that this guy was coming out, I had made the comment, I guess it's park wherever the hell you want day. And again, my ideal self wouldn't have said anything, but it was one of those things. It had been a long day. I'm not giving excuses, but
I'm guilty of sometimes doing the fire lane one. Once Sherry has texted and says checking out, I will sometimes do that, but I will not be anywhere near the 2 sets of doors. I'll be clear on one end of that establishment or the other. So I'm like basically lined up by the trees and where guys do drug deals.
Right. Yeah.
And I'll have my hazards on. I'm still in the fire lane technically, but I'm nowhere near pedestrians or other vehicles.
Yeah, you're not going to be in anyone's way.
So I will sometimes do that only because of the aforementioned facts.
Yeah.
But I do see the other one you mentioned where people park like Chinese takeout.
Yeah.
In a strip mall. They're like, I'm running right in and right back out. Literally saying my name, paying and leaving. Still not okay.
Yeah, still not okay. Gas stations are popular for this too.
Yeah.
People parking right in front of gas. There's a gas station that I was going into, and like it was an older lady, and it just felt like her and life were just at a point where it's like, I'm just going to start doing whatever I want. And like she would actually, when somebody parked there, she was out the door like that to tell them to move.
Yeah.
And I was just
good for you.
Applauding this thing.
As you creep up on 40 with your sore back, and I do too, do you think, and it's commonly said of older people, that they just stopped caring like how they come off like all that sort of pretense and overthinking about what people think about you. Do you get to that crotchety age a little bit where you just start saying the stuff that you're thinking?
I think maybe that starts happening.
I feel like it is.
Maybe life is a progression of caring less and less about others. Like because when you're a teenager in early 20s and that kind of thing, I feel like you really care about what other people think about you.
Yeah.
Right? That's why you're wearing the clothes you wear. That's why you do the things you do, say the things you say. And then as you get older, you start wearing things because they're comfortable, right?
Yeah.
Not because you care what anyone else around. Maybe not you, but you're just
form over function, baby.
Well, but even if you're wearing things to like to make yourself feel different, feel cooler, feel a different way, or you've kind of like decided you woke up that morning and you're going to like re-identify now as that's fine. The point is it was you made that decision within yourself.
Yeah.
Right? It wasn't an outside decision that was put upon you.
Right.
I think that happens less and less and less. So maybe that theory leads to by the time you're 70, you just don't care at all, and you completely say what you want, and I don't know.
On Pete and Sebastian, they call it pulling a Pete because Pete has zero tolerance for nonsense. So he'll call people on stuff and get in like altercations, not physical altercations, but does altercation designate that it has to be physical?
No.
Verbal, like yelling matches with other human beings on planet Earth over small, seemingly trivial things like what we're describing. He just can't tolerate it. So he'll just say it. And Sebastian's like MO is like never get involved with anything ever.
Yeah. He's
like stay away from everything. And Pete's not stirring it up, but he's also not going to tolerate when people are doing it.
Right.
I find myself getting more like Pete as time goes on, where
interesting.
I don't have examples really, but I've felt very close.
I understand.
Especially with airport stuff.
Yeah.
It seems to be like the most egregious stuff seems to happen at airports.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I think I too at heart am the Sebastian, but like I there are moments that I want to be Pete. I could probably count on two hands the number of times in my life that I've been Pete.
Yeah, same.
My whole life.
Yeah, same. But there's a part of you, there's like this assertive, probably more confident version of you that wants to be able to do that. I would start to do it and then stutter over my words or something or drop something.
Right.
And then I won't even look cool doing it.
Yeah.
I'll flub my way through and be like, you should never. I was wondering why, okay, sorry. I think you meant like I'd have every intention of coming out swinging, not literally. With a polished, short, pithy jab that they go, I see the error of my ways.
Right. And that's never the way it's going to work.
Never going to happen.
Which means that what we're talking about is probably relatively pointless other than for your own ventilation. But maybe, I don't know, then maybe there is a ground where you could say something, but try to be helpful and try to be kind and helpful about it. Like that would be the way, and the way I talk about, like in society as Christians, we can accept a behavior, we can reject a behavior, or we can redeem. And as we're supposed to be a redemptive people, be redemptive. So be the person who speaks out because you want to, but do it in a kind, loving way that is helpful to someone else. And that by far seems like probably the hardest thing to do. And I think sometimes you would come across as my father-in-law is a very kind person. Always, he's the kind of person who's never known a stranger.
Yep.
Always finds something in common to talk with somebody about. And like, just as will talk to anybody, is very kind. And, yeah. So I don't know. Maybe we should be that.
I see a comical video compilation of what that would look like. The redeemed interactions when you're angry about something. Mm-hmm. So like, you know how the Dude Perfect does, like that one guy everybody knows fishing, or that one guy everybody knows playing, softball. There's like the Christian response to idiots.
Right. Yeah. Man.
We'll figure it out after we hear a word from some of our friends in On Pods Media.
Hey, it's Dalton.
I'm Tony.
And I'm Sam.
We want to tell you about Big Ten Plus 4.
Do you want to hear football talk that doesn't only talk about the SEC?
Are you tired of always hearing about how the Big Ten doesn't perform in the big dance?
Then we're the show for you.
You can catch us each week live on the ASAP network.
And later that day on Odd Pods Media, we bring you college sports with a Big Ten flavor.
Big Ten Plus 4.
College sports with Midwest perspective,
Blue collar, and blue blood.
Well, that was a good topic.
That was a good one. And I think I'm kind of ashamed to admit something that happened as we wrap that up on the way here. So maybe the antithesis of what we just described before the break. What is the Christian way to respond to, I don't want to say idiots, people who make bad decisions that affect society? How do you respond to them in a loving yet educational way? So coming out of my neighborhood, SUV pulls out in front of me, slam on my brakes. I was coming up to a green light, so it's not like I was coming up to a red light where I could have stopped and let them go through.
Right.
I clearly had the right of way. Laid on the horn.
Sure.
Then lady gets behind me, and I do this again in the rear view. Like, what were you thinking?
Right.
And she mouthed, "I'm sorry. I'm sorry."
Wow.
And I felt bad.
Yeah. Golly.
Because she was so expressive with her. I'm like, she knew she was in the wrong.
Yeah.
She had her kid with her who's just eating fries.
Mm-hmm.
I would have T-boned that kid.
Sure.
She felt bad. Now she's behind me for like the next 3 lights.
Yeah.
Now it's just awkward.
Yeah. But man, like, good for her.
Yeah. Right?
You want to be that person in that situation, that you recognize it.
I'm sorry.
Because I mean, we'd all be lying if we said that, like, we haven't accidentally pulled out in front of somebody before, right?
Yeah.
We've all done it. Like, we've all run a stop sign before, and then we're like,
Yeah.
"Holy crap, that was a stop sign."
Yeah.
We've all done that.
Yep.
We all get super pissed at the person who does it within our sight.
Yep.
And but like, I like to think that if I run a stop sign and somebody honks at me, I'm not going to flip them off, right?
Yeah.
I'm like, "Oh, you're right. I ran a stop sign."
Just like take the meek, like head down. Sorry, my bad. That's on me.
Yeah, goodness gracious. I'll stop playing Angry Birds.
So I have to say my eldest is weeks away from driving. She has done she's almost got her requirement of daytime hours. She's fulfilled her requirement of nighttime hours. She has passed with flying colors the classroom portion of the driver's educational classes. And now she's driving with an instructor in one of the highly marked vehicles. And so once she passes that, it's go and test at the BMV. So
Beautiful.
she has done a remarkable job. There have been, in the 6 months she's been driving, there have been 1 or 2, she probably wasn't thinking, didn't see that pedestrian,
Yeah.
Type things. I thought that this would be one of the scariest times as a parent, but maybe it's just the way Lily's wired. She's just very responsible, and she takes things very seriously, and also she seeks approval, which you don't want to use that against her, but she just wants to do the right thing.
Sure.
So she's done extremely well. Like, we went up to Mommy over the weekend to visit family, and she drove the whole way, 2 hours from Sunbury to Mommy.
Nice.
So 2375, which is a major, interstate. And then in the surface streets of Maumee, Toledo. So she's doing great. I'm not too worried because she's kind of a homebody, so she likes to be home anyway. I don't imagine her going out a lot.
Mm-hmm.
when she does get her license. But yeah, that time is right around the corner. Whew. But yeah, I think we did a good job. We stayed pretty patient. You try not to freak out when they do something foolish. But yeah, it's right around the corner, man.
Yeah, dude. You know, Lily is one of those kids that like she's one of the kinds of kids that I hope that like I don't have to worry about my kids when they're that age. As much as Corey and Sherry don't have to worry about Lily.
We worry about her in other ways, but in the realms of like responsibility and trying her best, and yeah, she can be scatterbrained and she can sometimes be insensitive. But as it relates to like those things, yeah, we definitely do not worry. Other kids coming down the line with driving and other responsibilities, they're just they're wired so different.
Yeah. I mean, you've got that responsibility thing, man. That's something that you really got to think about, because it's something that I like. My oldest kid is 8 or 9 or I don't know, one of those, and I'm like, I find myself getting anxious sometimes thinking about it. As far as like, let's just take drinking. I don't want my kid going to parties and getting wasted.
Yeah.
And then doing who knows what after that.
Yeah.
Like I don't want that. There's two ways of trying to handle that. And one of them is to make them scared of alcohol.
Yep.
And but the problem with that one, in my estimation, is that like if that one backfires, it really backfires. Right. There's that. And then, but like, and then the other way is to try to do like the cool parent thing. Like, you can go ahead and do it. Let me teach you how to be responsible with it. That one can also backfire.
Yep.
And so there's a happy medium there somewhere. And I think that the answer is focusing somehow, some way on building character and decision-making skills. And those kinds of things, so that the hope is they choose not to partake in stupid behavior like that. They know that they have a future in front of them and they need to be thinking about that. And that's far more important than impressing your friends. Whatever that is, that character, like.
Well, in the first category, I would add being curious about, or like treating it like this mysterious thing. So there's making them afraid of it, and then like never talking about it, and it's like a mystery, and like you don't ever explain it, and so then they're curious. They're not like, you know, on a path of self-destruction. They're just like, they want to know more, but because you never talk, like Voldemort, like we shall not speak his name. We should we just glare at people who partake. And like the assumption is that they're bad people because we're glaring at them because of what they're drinking.
Yeah.
I think that kind of goes back to one of my favorite parenting quotes, which is try not to prepare the road for your kid, rather prepare your kid for the road. My kids are having to navigate things with their friends at 6, the girls especially, 16, 13. They're having to navigate things with their friends that like I didn't have to even think about until I was in college or after. And I know this is common, right? But I'm like, when we have discussions with them about those things, we make it less about the thing, and we focus on the character pieces like you're describing. Right. So it's like Susie's making X decisions. Susie identifies as whatever. Susie's decided that it was fine. Like, okay, cool. What do you know of Susie? Like, what other things in Susie's life do you admire? What other things in Susie's life do you have questions about, or seem like she doesn't live up to the morals or whatever that she proclaims? And then we're not having a conversation about the thing. We're having a conversation about people and people's decision making And do you want to be like Susie? How do people view Susie when she says that, does that thing? Do you want people to view you in the same way? And so what are you going to do or not do? How can you be a light, an encouragement to Susie in a different way? So it's asking a ton of questions and not making it about the thing as a list of rules, but like helping them observe the surrounding, observe the person, look at the track record of the person. Oh, wow, Susie dropped out. Susie, maybe I don't want to do that, right? So it's like, I think it's less focus on the thing and more focus on the character pieces and preparing them for the decisions, not trying to remove every conceivable obstacle, challenge, opportunity that they might have. Another great example is like, you don't like the teacher that your child is assigned at the beginning of the school year. A good example of preparing the road would be you call the day after teachers are announced and have them removed from that classroom because you heard from the other stay-at-home mom down the street that teacher's a pain.
Yeah.
Instead of going, I'm actually going to let my kid have this teacher. And they may or may not have a difficult year. But guess what? They will have learned how to deal with a difficult teacher.
Right.
So that to me is like, don't helicopter, and I know there's that parenting show right now about like helicopter parents and routine parents and the parent test, but like kind of gets to some of that. Like, I'm not suggesting there's a right or wrong way, but I agree with you in that there's something in the middle that's the deeper and, in my opinion, more correct question, not bad, good, black, white. It's depends on you and how you want to be perceived and what you want to do and how you want to handle it. I love how my dad always handled it, which was, listen, it impairs your judgment. You're not supposed to be doing it anyway because you're not 21. I don't want you doing it, but I'm also not an idiot. And I know you're probably going to find a way to do it. And if you ever get yourself into a situation where you've had too many drinks, I don't want you driving. So you call me. I'll come pick you up. No questions asked. I'm going to beat your butt the next day or ground you, or you'll lose privileges. But I would rather pick you up, leave your car at some bozo's house.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like that honest, raw sort of like, hey, been there, done that.
Don't get me wrong. We're not going to act like nothing happened.
We're not going to act like nothing happened.
But.
Yeah.
But I mean, there's that. There's obviously modeling it for your kids and things like that and pointing some things out to them, depending on whether or not they respect you, which is another big thing. But like, for me and my kids, when the day comes, have you seen daddy drink alcohol? You have. Yeah. Have you ever seen daddy drunk? You haven't.
You've never. Yeah.
Let me talk to you about why that is.
Yep. It's good. Man, we are helping. We are helping people.
Going deep. Hey, as long as we're talking about social issues.
Yeah. Hey, something funny to lighten the mood a bit.
Yeah.
And then I want to talk about Hardy.
Oh, okay, cool.
So there's a podcast. There's a podcast called Things I Learned Last Night.
Okay.
And it's my estimation. I haven't watched the podcast. I just saw a clip on TikTok or on YouTube or Facebook Reels or whatever. Things I Learned Last Night. It's two guys, best I can tell. And they do similar roles for their podcast that you and I do for this one. So one of them does the YouTube thumbnails.
Okay.
Like I do. And the other guy does the editing of the podcast and uploads said thumbnail to YouTube. So he does the actual file uploads and RSS feeds and blah, blah, blah. For the entirety of their podcast, the guy doing the graphic design for the YouTube thumbnails would Photoshop out one of the other guy's fingers. So in every episode where they're gesturing or whatever, he'd always Photoshop out one finger.
That's hilarious.
The other guy who was doing the uploading never noticed.
Wow.
And so one day, you have to go look up this clip. Just Google Things I Learned Last Night, gag or joke or whatever. Curtis, thanks to Jeremy Kester for sending us this clip. But so then in one episode where I think they were like in a hot tub or something, his hands were under the water. And so rather than Photoshop out a finger, he just Photoshopped off a nipple. So like he revealed however many episodes worth of thumbnails, and he's just sliding through. He's always missing something. I just thought that was funny. Hilarious.
I like that.
I thought you'd appreciate that.
I do appreciate that.
Speaking of YouTube, you got me into Hardy. Thank you very much.
Oh, you're welcome.
We've talked about The Mockingbird and the Crow, I think, a few weeks ago.
A little bit, yeah.
Hardy was a guest on Theo Vaughn's podcast this week, and it dropped hours before I came over here to record, and I couldn't get to a YouTube video fast enough.
Nice.
If you know Theo Vaughn, if you don't know Theo Vaughn is a stand-up, but he's almost a character. It's not really him. He sort of comes out as this like affable, probably slightly less educated guy who's sort of non sequitur and always has, well, there's this one kid in my town, and he just makes up a story about a kid in his town. There probably wasn't a kid in his town.
Yeah.
But he just makes up this like Southern hick kind of guy. And he sort of does his podcast as that character. It bleeds into what I think is a real version of Theo from time to time, where he gets very serious about his own struggles and things like that, but it's mostly the character. Anyway, he has Hardy on, and I can't wait to watch it. It's like 2 hours long. So I thought you'd want to know, but if any of our listeners enjoy Hardy, check out This Past Weekend with Theo Vaughn. Special guest Hardy this week. Definitely going to watch that when I get home. I'm super excited.
Yeah, I'm going to watch that for sure. Did you happen to catch the Chris Rock live special on Netflix?
I just saw the trailer in my recommended, and I'm excited to watch it because in the description it says he gives his thoughts on the Will Smith thing.
He digs deep on the Will Smith thing.
He does.
That's you'll spend your time waiting for it, but it comes.
Yeah.
No, I watched it. I didn't watch it live. I watched it like the next day.
Okay.
But which I thought it was really cool that he did it live.
Okay, so I didn't realize that. I thought it was just a regular special.
No, there was a time, it was like 10 p.m. on Saturday night or something like that, and Netflix streamed it live.
So did the people who watched it live get any special?
That I don't know. So that was another thing. I'm watching it thinking, am I watching an edited version now? I'll probably never know the answer to that. But I don't know. I saw it. I loved it for all sorts of different reasons. It's very angry.
Yeah.
Which in funny ways. And in a lot of ways it's kind of like what you expect from comedians these days.
Yeah.
So it's Chris Rock. So there's a lot of race involved.
Yeah.
And what he's talking about, but also like what every comedian is ragging on woke culture right now because it's threatening to them.
Yep.
I think is where that's coming from. But so that, I would say like so much of it was it so many of his topics came back around to being anti-woke. And I just think that that's an interesting situation. I feel like an interesting movement that's going on among the comedian world, which ain't a one of them conservative. But all of them have this little piece of them that's like, but I can't be that progressive either.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I really want to watch it. So it's called Selective Outrage.
Yeah.
Dillon has a concept that he talks about a lot called phony outrage, where it's like this
false outrage. Yeah.
False outrage. Same thing, right? Where it's like people who are usually upset about race issues are usually not the minority that's supposedly being offended. It's a white person who is virtue signaling and getting the most angry on behalf of the minority to appear holier than thou or whatever.
Yeah.
So kind of like that. I think it's interesting for a couple of reasons because like you said, they're not really conservative. I think of all comics that are in the zeitgeist, Joe Rogan is probably becoming the most conservative of all of them.
But he's not.
But he's not. I'm saying relative to the others, he's the most conservative. And yes, it's because it directly affects their business, because they, again, we've talked about this ad nauseum, like, should comedians be allowed, should stand-up comedy be the safe foray into what is okay and not okay to say? There's that piece of it. But then there's like the typically woke people are left people. And if most comics are not right, then why are they having a problem with it? Is a really interesting question. And it could just be that, like, I don't know, it's tricky to navigate these waters, but it's like I think it's no different than when you find out that a longtime Hollywood celebrity is a believer.
Okay.
It's kind of like I had to navigate Hollywood. Hollywood is not favorable to conservative ways of thinking generally.
Right.
And so I didn't cower or kowtow to Hollywood, but I played the game, and where appropriate felt like I was going to reveal my personal beliefs and morals, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think of freaking, what's his head? Chris Pratt, right?
Yeah.
He gets this Kids' Choice Award a couple years ago and
Sure.
gives this beautiful acceptance speech about there is a God and he loves you. And then he joked about like toilet etiquette, right? In the same acceptance speech. And it was funny and beautiful and perfectly Chris Pratt. Well, this isn't a new thing. He's believed this way for a long time. He's played roles that super conservative Christians would say is way too far for a celebrity to be doing. But he does the role. This is my work and this is my personal life. And so I wonder if it's something like that, where it's like more think that this woke stuff is crazy and are afraid to, when not doing stand-up, talk about it. And stand-up is the safest place to talk about it and sort of make fun of it.
Yeah.
As a participant in it, like it's a caricature of itself.
Sure.
And even Chris D'Elia, who's been canceled, I think 2 or 3 times now, he's like, it eventually eats itself, woke culture, right? Because like everybody tries to out-woke the woke, and then it implodes on itself, to use a Dillon term. So there's this comical clip that they shared on Your Mom's House podcast, which is Tom Segura and his wife, Christina Pajitsky. I watch this from time to time as well. And it's like a meeting of inclusivity, and they're all agreeing on the latest batch of terms that we are not allowed to say and non-say. And so like, it's funny in that somebody stands up during this meeting and says, "Stop using gendered language." And then like, it's just, they're piling on of the things that you can and can't say and whining to each other. But like the only people that care about these things are like the 12 of them that are in that room at that given moment. And so it just appears very silly and foolish. And maybe this is where we end the podcast.
That's it. We did it. Sorry, Dillon. If Dillon were here, we would never have gotten this far with this conversation.
He'd be going,
he would have said something funny and witty like 15 minutes ago that would have, in effect, ended any idea of social political discussion
and
whatsoever.
I feel like I've been trying to be so careful with my words.
I know. Hey, if you ask me, I feel like the shark has been jumped with the woke culture-ism, to the point that Republicans and Democrats are starting to come together on some of this to shut down some of the ridiculousness. So I'm not saying that they see eye to eye necessarily, but I think that there are some extremes where both sides can say that's too far.
That's a little too far. Like it's getting to the point where it seems like it's an SNL sketch, but they're actual headlines.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Lady tries to sneak her comfort buffalo onto a plane. Like, it's like, no, that actually happened in Tucson.
Yeah.
Right? So anyway, sorry, Dylan. I just canceled us.
We just tanked it.
Just tanked it. Oh man. So I'm glad it was good. I want to check that out. Stand up. I was gonna try to make it over to the Comedy Cellar when I was in New York, but there just wasn't time. But I think I'm going to be going out there more often than not, and I think, when possible, just going to become a regular.
Be a Comedy Cellar guy.
Become a regular at the Comedy Cellar, and hope guys like Kevin Hart pop in and stuff like that. I was supposed to be in LA this week for a very big internal meeting at my job, but due to the economy and some constraints, they're like, let's just do customer only meetings for a while, and then it'll level out and we can go back to doing internal meetings again, because we don't want to justify travel for non-essential stuff. So anyway, we were supposed to be in LA, where I was going to finally get to visit the Comedy Store. Talked about it a bunch of times, talked about the documentary that was on, I believe, Apple TV Plus about the Comedy Store, and was going to go and also try the Improv, but they moved it to virtual. So that was a bit of a bummer. Yeah. But I'll get out there someday. Lily has applied for a summer program through Pepperdine University. 200 high school sophomores and some juniors get selected to participate in a extended weekend or week-long sort of like life and skills mapping, and you meet other kids, and there's like a couple nights of worship, and this all takes place at Pepperdine. And of course there's the occasional commercial of like, you should come to college here.
Oh, exactly.
But if she gets it, then Sherry and I are going to take her out there, and that wouldn't be too far.
There you go.
So maybe that happens then. So fingers crossed she gets the Pepperdine thing. That would be fun. I know a few guys that went there and had a good experience. Southern California in summer, probably not too shabby.
Can't beat it.
Anything else, man? I saw you had a.
We'll save it. We'll
save it for a different time, because I got thoughts. Day. I got thoughts on it.
Yeah.
All right, man. This has been fun. Dylan, sorry you couldn't join us, and also sorry that this was our last episode. Kendall, you do the beard stuff.
I do the beard stuff. Oh, man. If you were to smell my beard right now, you would immediately start craving fruit. And instead of smelling the nastiness that usually comes with man musk, that's because I use Artius Man beard balm inside of my nest. And so, can't do it. Citrus Fire is my scent of choice. I use the oil, I use the balm. I also use Artius Man shampoo and conditioner and the bar soap in the shower. And you should too. I smell nice. My wife says so all the time. And they also have candles and various types of swag. Artiusman.com, ARTIUSman.com. Use promo code the middle at checkout. If it's your first order, you'll get 25% off, and it helps us, helps Artius Man. We love it. Anything else?
Yeah, just get those products before Artius Man drops us.